Welcome everyone, and I appreciate everyone taking the time to watch the GoldShore presentation. I refer everyone to our forward-looking statements and our disclaimers at the beginning of our presentation, and I direct everybody to our website to read them and review them. You know, GoldShore is a brand new story coming off the back of a transaction to acquire the Moss Lake project from Wesdome Gold Mines. Concurrently, we raised $25 million in a private placement sub-receipt round back in February, and we did a reverse takeover transaction into a company called Sierra Madre and changed our name to GoldShore Resources. So a lot has happened. Let me talk a little bit about the project. The Moss Lake project we've acquired ticks a lot of boxes. It is in a low-risk jurisdiction, being up in northwest Thunder Bay. We have assembled a great group, top quality group of guys and ladies who are involved in the project at the management team, at the board level, and at the advisory board level. We have a tremendous land package whereby we have 4 million ounce historical resource, and we have a substantial amount of exploration upside. So quite a bit of potential in the pipeline. We have anticipated the approval of the transactions, and we have already started putting together our drill campaign for the forthcoming kind of 12, 16, 18 months, which is going to include about 100,000 meters of drilling. And we have a historic PEA on the property that was done back in 2013, which I'm going to speak about a little later. You know, I've been in the sector for a long time. A lot of you will know me. I've been the CEO of a number of companies, both on the public side and on the private side. Most recently on the private side, going through rehabilitation of the Banro Corporation. But prior to that was the CEO of Midnight Sun Mining, Avocet Mining, Rocks Gold, Octea Diamonds, and I was part of the startup team of Katanga Mining, and I spent the early part of my career at Kinross. My VP of Exploration is a well-renowned guy, Pete Flindell. Pete has been with me for 20 years on 7 or 8 of my last projects and rehabs and also development projects. Pete has over 10 million ounces of exploration discoveries personally, and he has over 30 million ounces of exploration discoveries on top of maiden resources. Gavin Cooper is our CFO. He's based in Vancouver, but we have a real stellar board put together. We have a balance between a group of really young, up-and-coming entrepreneurial geologists who are CEOs of their own companies in their outright. Galen McNamara, Brandon McDonald, Sean Kuhn, all CEOs in their outright. Doug Ramshaw, who shares a little bit of gray hair like I do, has been around the sector for a little bit. He is the director of Great Bear, but he is the CEO of president and director of Minera Alamos. Rounding out our board, we have Victor Cantor, who is the CEO of Amex, and Joanna Pearson, who is the CFO of Endeavour Mining. We have 2 Wesdome appointees, high-quality people in their own right. Mike Michaud, who is their VP of Exploration, and Heather Laxton, who is their Chief Governance Officer at Wesdome Gold Mines. Our advisory board, again, just keeps getting stronger with led by David Garofalo, Craig Perry, Brian Sluserchuk, Leo Hathaway, Daniel Coons, and Adrian Rothwell. Again, all of these men and women on our board and on our advisory board, we all have roles to play, both in creating awareness, getting the story out there, using our vast network, but also in campaigning and financing. Again, using our network and getting our story out there. You'll see Moss Lake is about 132 kilometers northwest of Thunder Bay. It comes in the very top end of kind of the Red Lake camp, the Timmins camp, and the Abitibi belt, right across the top of northern Ontario and northern Quebec. And we're starting off on a year-round exploration program, just getting going on the ground shortly. And we've got a lot of certainly a lot of upside. And I look at the comparisons to other companies who have walked in this space before us, both in this jurisdiction, but both at the size and scale we are today. And I refer to kind of Kirkland Lake's Detour Lake Gold Project, Rainy River, Cote Lake. These are projects that are in a very similar jurisdiction, same jurisdiction that we are in. They are of the size and scale that we are today. They were once here. So I feel like we're walking in the footsteps of some of these larger companies. And the profile of these companies are exactly the same. They're big tonnage, big CapEx, low grade, big volume, earth moving exercises, some people call them. But at the end of the day, they are highly leveraged to the gold price and very geared to kind of the trading range that we see going forward for the gold price. As I said, Moss Lake and GoldShore Resources generally has a historical mineral resource, 1.5 million ounces of indicated resource and 2.5 million ounces of inferred resource combined between Moss Lake and Coldstream. So we've got a really, really good footprint, a really good base to grow from. And this is going to be our project. This is our land package. We are about a kilometer off Highway 11, which is Yonge Street in Toronto, also known as the longest street in the world. And 1,800 kilometers from downtown Toronto, you'll find our project. So we are very, very close to a lot of kind of, I'll say, superior infrastructure, road, rail, logistics, and labor. So we have a lot of boxes ticked in that regard. But the land package we have under license is substantial. From toe to toe, we probably cover 30 kilometers, but the resource takes up a very small portion of it. And there are a lot of areas where there has been scout drilling and there have been hits. There is an area called North Coldstream, which was a historic copper mine run by Xstrata in the 90s. So we have a lot of work to do, and I don't want to underestimate that. Our job is to taking this resource and demonstrating that we have a real project, demonstrating we truly are walking the footsteps of some of these giants who are in production or just about to get into production with a profile very, very similar to Moss Lake. If you look at the Moss Lake, some of the drill results here, I would expect us, as we go through our drilling campaign in 2021 and into 2022, we're going to expect a lot of the same kind of results. Low grade, 1 to 2 gram type grades over big intercepts, 100 meters, 120, 150 meters. That is what I would expect we're going to see. Hole 801 up top, where you see 11 grams over 70 meters. A bit of an anomaly. I actually thought they must have drilled down a structure, but in actual fact, after talking to the guy who drilled and the guy who ran the PEA, in actual fact, they didn't. They actually drilled through quite a bit of, stacked veins over in the western part of our property, very similar to some of our peers, and the drill results they're starting to get just off our property, maybe not as large as 70 meters of 11 grams, but certainly higher grade over kind of narrow vein intercepts. So this is going to be something we need to understand a little bit greater. But we have structurally, multiple different geological deposit styles on this land package. We have kind of a shear vein hosted system style deposit at Moss Lake. Hanlon Lake, which is down in the kind of the southwest of our land package, has IOCG mineralization. So again, needs to be understood as such. And up in the northeast, where Coldstream, East Coldstream and North Coldstream, it's a VMS style deposit. So more copper, zinc, silver, gold, and I think again we will figure all of this out geologically as we move through our program. I've just turned the map turned it clockwise, so north is on the right. I've done this so to give you an indication of kind of the size of the potential. We've got from the deposit, which is illustrated here in red, all the way up to Iris, which is scout drilling target up in the northeast. We've got about a 20-kilometer prospective trend of mineralization. This is not scout drilling. We're not trying to find mineralization in greenfield site. The area is mineralized, and we've got, in addition to some of the scout holes where you'll see the mineralization, we've also got a long stretch of IP anomalies kind of just north of the Moss Lake deposit. So I think at the At the end of the day, our drilling is going to be focused on kind of 60% infilling Moss Lake, 60, 65%, 35, 40% scout drilling and building out the development of some of these targets along strike, and but also some new targets at depth under Moss Lake. We're going to take special care on recovery, and we're going to be using oriented core measurements, etc. So we're going to be gathering a lot of data as we go through our program. I mentioned about Moss Lake. It is very under drilled. There's very few holes over 300 meters. There's a couple. What I think our job will be to do when we infill this is probably take a look at some of the geophysical work that we're doing now and completing now, but look to see if there's any robustness at depth, to see if there is merit in putting a deep hole or a couple of deep holes to understand the origin of this geology at depth. And does that demonstrate a 300 or 350 meter pit? It does, but I'm trying to also provide some geological potential for somebody who might have interest in this project somewhere down the road, like all of these people who walked before us transacted to get where they are. I'd like to show them geological potential at depth, and we'll make that determination in the near future. One of the things Moss Lake has about it is it has an extensive history, and it dates back to kind of the early 1900s. Prior to that, in the late 1800s, but most recently there has been a lot of work done on Snodgrass Lake, which is on our land package by Falconbridge. There was quite a bit of work done on the original Moss Lake deposit with the Tandem Stormont joint venture. And then Moss Lake Gold Mines kind of completed some additional drilling in the 90s. Wesdome completed additional drilling in the 2000s and 2010. In 2013, they did a PEA based on the historic resource, and they did it in 2013 in Canadian dollars. And I found that a little odd at the time until I realized that the Canadian dollar was at par with the US dollar. And the capex at the time was just around $750 million, and the NPV of the project was just under $500 million Canadian dollars at 1,650 Canadian dollar gold price. If I do the extrapolation on FX and I use some reasonable kind of increases and on the cost curve for capex, I would see that existing PEA coming around $1.2, $1.3 billion in capex, and the NPV at $1,900 gold US today being somewhere around $750 million US in NPV, 5%. So that's what we're starting from. That's the basis of which we're going to grow Moss Lake and demonstrate that this is a real project. PEAs are not projects. PEAs give you an indication of kind of the economic potential. Our job is to demonstrate there's a real project here. One of the ways that we're going to be able to assist, the future of this project is to make sure we have all the data compiled, consolidated, and in a very, very high standard, a standard that the majors would accept or the mid-tiers would accept, those who we would look to strategically partner with down the road. We have over 30,000 files that we inventoried, digitized, and we have put in a common database now, which will form kind of the basis of our architecture of our data room. So we will have everything in one place, and that's the starting point. And we've been working on that for a couple of months now with Oryx Geoscience in Toronto. We just completed a VTEM survey over the entire property, and that is kind of 50-meter space lines over the resource at Moss Lake and Coldstream, and 100-meter space lines over the rest of the project. And that was done by Geotech, and we're now going through the interpretation of that data, preparing the maps, preparing the 3D analysis down to 1,000 meters, and we'll be doing that with techno-imaging over the next couple of weeks. And from this, I hope to be able to gather enough geological context to give us some very, very high quality drill targets as we move forward. Because ultimately, we're going to need to build a a very robust geological model, a geometallurgical model, a grade model that we can mine to, and that we can build on a new PEA, an updated PEA on an updated resource once we get through our program. So I need all of this done to a very, very high quality. I need this done to a very, very good standard. I use the alphabetic metaphor that, we didn't start from A and we're going to take this to Z. We started at L, and L, we have a 4 million ounce historic resource. We've got a lot of understanding geologically of the historic work that's been done on the property. So we have a head start. On the ground, we didn't have much of a head start. We had to start by building our own infrastructure, which is now done. We've got several 2 teams of employees on the ground. We've got over a dozen people working on the ground right now, and we're on the ground. We're relogging core. We're moving core. We're getting organized with all of the historic core. About 140,000 meters of core, of which we think a reasonable percentage of that will be reusable and usable as we kind of go through our exercise to make this a current resource eventually. But as you can imagine, there's a lot of infrastructure building that we've had to do. Our drilling program has been, is well advanced. We have selected our drilling contractors after a long tender process back in March, April, and we have selected our contractors. They both have First Nations partnerships. And we have submitted our permit for exploration. We'll be submitting a couple of more permits in the forthcoming weeks, and we hope to get drilling in July. So that for me, with the turnaround of the existing COVID situation and people on the ground, particularly in Thunder Bay, I suspect we're going to be a little delayed in starting the churn of drill results. But once it starts, it's going to come fairly steady, and I would expect that to start sometime in February. So the program, as we see right now, we're going to try and get through the lion's share of our program by this time next year. So if we get 60, 70,000 meters through by the summer of next year, we will be in a position to be able to start looking at doing a resource estimate update on the basis of doing an updated PEA from that, so that we can get something to the market by the end of next year as far as an updated PEA goes. If that means that we look to start a PFS, then that means we look to start a PFS. If it means that we're in a space where we want to look at other strategic options, we can look at other strategic options. But I'm of the view that our job coming in at L might well leave at O or P or Q, and I don't know where in the alphabet metaphor where we're going to end, but. And I would love to go put the project capital together for a couple of $1 billion program, put the team together to build it, and get out there on the ground to do the next Detour Lake or Rainy River. But the reality is the mid-tiers and the majors are well positioned to do this. They're well capitalized to do it. They have the capital resources to be able to raise this type of project financing, and they have the teams and the experience and the people to do it. And they're well suited to do it. Again, our job is to create as much value in a shorter period of time as possible from L to O, and that's what we're going to be focused on. Some of the other things we're doing, and again, this is a little bit uncommon to junior mining, but 2 things I plan on doing is we have full engagement with our First Nations communities, and I want to get these to agreement. I want to be able to put together proper agreements so that we can de-risk the project for other partnerships down the road with potential suitors or potential mining companies. And the second thing that I think is very, very important is we're going to be spending a couple $100,000 over a 2-year period working on environmental baseline study work. And most people say, well, isn't that a little premature? You're just a development company doing some drilling out in the bush. Do you really need to do a baseline study at this stage? And my answer is absolutely. And I'll tell you why. Is because these studies take 3 or 4 years generally. By the time you start getting into PFS or bankable feasibility study, you need to be well advanced in these types of baseline studies, and you need to be, well advanced towards permitting, so that, one of my strong mantras is speed to market. The faster you get things to market, the better the result will be, the better the financial or economic result will be. So by doing these studies, we could carve off 6 months, possibly a year, maybe longer, will be compressed as much as possible. But the real takeaway is very simple. We are 100 million, we have 100 million shares outstanding. We have a $65 million market cap on opening. We just started trading last Friday on the TSX.V under the symbol GSHR. And the takeaway is this: looking at GoldShore Resources on a kind of a peer comparable, a trading comparable to those around us, and names everyone knows, and projects everyone is very familiar with. I start looking at tier 1 jurisdictions. Okay, who's in that space? I start looking at, maiden resource and or historical resource, a couple of million ounces up to 4 or 5 million ounces. Who's in that space and in that jurisdiction? And are they at, the same stage of PEA, PFS, some sort of development stage towards decision points? And all of these companies kind of tick those boxes. The takeaway on this is we came out of the market on a $65 million market cap. We traded up on Friday, and we've bounced around kind of on Monday and Tuesday with the market, which is all really good. But even at a $70 or $75 million market cap today, maybe $80 million market cap today, we still are trading around $20 per ounce. And that is kind of fourth quartile as compared to our peers on a market cap per attributed resource basis. So I would expect, GoldShore to be calibrated by the market over time. These things don't happen on trading date. They don't happen in the first day or 2 or 5. They happen over a period of time as the market gets comfortable with the project, understands the project, and then starts to do its own kind of calibration to other peers. And I've tried to help the market. I've accelerated that process, and here's where I see us fitting in. But where I think we should be fitting in is somewhere kind of near median, $50, $60 per ounce basis. And that is a multiple to our share price today. And that is true upside for our investors and our existing shareholders. So to me, this is one of the strong takeaways. This is before we even start to work it out and start to add value to this project, which I would hope that, yes, it will be a combination of, additional quality ounces, bringing ounces up into measured and indicated, but also bringing quantum of ounces in so that, the 4 million ounces can be something much larger than that in the future based on our results and based on good results. Again, looking at the footprints of those who we've walked in before, or those who have walked in our footprints before. I use Detour Lake, and I'll use it again. Rainy River, Cote Lake. These are big projects with big resources, big reserves, and big capex. But they fit the same profile. They are all under a gram a ton. They are, big processing facilities. Our 2013, I look at the profile as to where they were and where we are, and they're very, very similar. And the profiles aren't going to change dramatically as far as the grade goes, the jurisdiction goes. The tonnage is going to be a function of the size of the resource. And that is our job from L to O, is demonstrating that over the period of time we have to work with it. Those projects that have walked before us have also been transactional to get where they needed to be. And this is not arm waving. I'm just showing this slide as to how the barrier of entry, the point of which these companies entered by acquiring these projects. Those transactions were, again, multiples of our share price and our market cap today. But I recognize that we have a lot of work to do to demonstrate and prove to the market and that this is a real project, that this is, walking in the footsteps of those companies, so that we can take this mineral resource statement up to a level that, again, footstep after footstep of those before us. High level terms, the Moss Lake deal was done back in January 26. I see this as a tremendous win-win-win scenario for West Dome Gold Mines, for GoldShore Resources shareholders, and for the GoldShore stakeholders in and around the area. Moss Lake has sat idle for a little while, and for good reason. Back in the trading range of gold between 1,200, 1,500, 1,600, and it sat there for several years, Moss Lake was less than desirable, and West Dome had two really key projects. Obviously, Eagle River. Eagle River is one of the highest grade gold mines in the world, I think number 3. And the work that they've done recently on the Kiena complex has demonstrated this is a real project. But these are low tonnage, underground, high grade deposits, and the skills required to unlock the value from them are very different than what Moss Lake is. And while gold price was tailing, under $1,500, this project was economic, but certainly didn't get the capital appreciation or didn't get the time and attention it normally would when it has two premier projects, world-class projects in its portfolio. So it sat on the back shelf. Now is the time to bring it out, dust it off, and see what we can do with it. Duncan Middlemas, who is the CEO, I believe that he saw value in transacting for Moss Lake with GoldShore for a number of reasons. First of all, we put a little bit of cash in the kitty, $12.5 million on closing, and he got 30% of our shares on closing, so he's a 30% shareholder going forward. And then we give West Dome 20 million shares over the next 4 years based on a number of milestones. And they retain a 1% NSR, which we can buy out for around $5 million, 3 in cash and 2 in shares. So the headline number for Moss Lake was $57 million. But it was structured in such a way that I believe it was a win for them. It'll give them exposure to the project now and exposure to the gold price. It's a big win for GoldShore because now we have the capital and we have the project that we can move forward that has size, scale, and a lot of potential. And it's a win for our stakeholders because now we're spending money on the ground. We're advancing this project towards what ultimately, may well be kind of different decisions down the road on taking it to the next levels. We did raise $25 million back in February. I closed it on the 26th. We raised 25. It was structured in such a way that 15 million was raised at hard dollars at 65 cents. 10 million was raised with flow-through shares at 75 cents. And that transaction closed on the 26th of February. It ultimately came out of escrow last Monday as we closed all of the transactions. They were all approved by the TSX on May 31st, and on June the 4th, we started trading on the TSX.V. Looking at our cap structure, this is, again, top 5 takeaway for me is our cap structure. We have 100 million shares out. We just raised 36 million in the sub-receipts I just talked about. But the 63 million shares we have, the GoldShore shares, the Sierra Madre shares, and the West Dome 30 million shares are all held in escrow and don't start getting released for 6 months. And they drip feed releases on escrow every 6 months up until 36 months. And that to me is a great structure of introducing kind of big volume into this story. The sub-receipts, which we raised, the 36 million, only 23 million of them, the $15 million hard dollar sub-receipts, are free trading today. So we have 23% of our free float free trading today. So it's a very tight cap structure. The flow-through shares have a 4-month automatic hold on them. So we're going to see in 4 months another kind of 13 million shares be free trading. And then after that, we're going to have a series of shares be released from escrow that will be free trading. So we're going to hit all these little milestones along the way to introduce new shares. But for the first 4 months, 6 months, 12 months, this is going to be a very, very tight trading stock, as we've seen. So again, I think GoldShore ticks a lot of boxes for me as an investor. I'm a strong investor. I'm a major shareholder of this company, and I wrote real checks to get there. Our board and our advisory board all participated in every round of funding to get there. They believe in this story. They believe in the ideology that gold is going to trade between $1,800 and $2,200 for the foreseeable future, and this project works in that gold trading range just exceptionally well. When we start to look at, redoing the PEA on a larger resource, we are talking about multi-billion-dollar CapEx project. We're talking about north of $1 billion NPV for a project that we've already got a very big head start on. Again, I premise all of this on our results and our ability to demonstrate what we see, and that is the mineralization that we see. I need to demonstrate that. I need to prove that. I need to prove that up into a larger pit, a larger resource. We need to increase the quality of that. We need to increase the quantity of that. And we are well positioned to do it. I've got a board and an advisory board that have been there many times, done that many times. I have built multiple mines in my career. Pete Flindell has found them for me, and he is living up in Thunder Bay, doing the hard miles with our team, and he is just very, very excited about what he sees right now as they're going through the relogging of the core. So we have a head start. We have a great group of people driving this project that have network and bandwidth in the capital markets. We have a big program planned. We've got a lot of other work planned on the ground. We'll get the results from the geophysical survey. And, we have multiple style deposits on our large land package, which I think is going to be exciting to figure out. And we're doing this in Ontario. I've spent the last 10 years in Africa in some very hairy jurisdictions, as everyone knows. And I'm back home now. I'm back in Ontario where I grew up. And this is certainly low risk for us. And then you compound all that with the tight share structure we have, and I see exciting things happening for GoldShore as we move our strategy forward. So, Mark, I'm really excited to be here today, as you can tell, and I really appreciate the time that you guys have given me in this conference. So, I'm happy to take some questions.
Well, that's great, Brad. Thank you very much. And as you say, everyone loves a good story, and you've certainly shared a great one today. And I can hear the passion behind the company that you've offered, and some terrific details on how you've come to where you are today. I really can't start off without saying that you've started trading last Friday. So congratulations, and very curious to know how the stock has reacted since going there.
The stock performed well. It came out of the gate, very, very strong. And that was to be expected because of the tight structure. I think the market settled down a little bit on Monday and Tuesday. We've kind of settled into a nice place. For me, I'm less focused on what that number is, or your share price. I'm less focused on that. I want to see some volume come in, and we saw almost 2 million shares out of 15 million free trading. We saw 2 million shares trade on Friday. We saw 500,000 yesterday. Probably going to see 500,000 or more today. I want to see that kind of volume, because what that's going to do in the interim, while we wait for this 4-month hold to come off, while we wait for the 6-month escrow to come off, it's just going to raise the floor, because now that 65-cent floor is now going to come up to a much, much higher level. So when those shares come on, there may be a little backdraft, but then we're going to start and see, again, the movement forward on the trajectory that we're all talking about.
Wonderful. Thank you. And congratulations again. That's great news. I have to qualify this. Somebody's asking, is Moss Lake cottage country? And for our American friends, we know up here, cottage country is a few hours north of the city, where people escape to go to their cabin/cottage. So the question comes across here, Brett, is Moss Lake cottage country and any competing land use issues?
Oh, great question. There are a couple of cottages on Moss Lake. They are seasonal for cottagers that come up, and we'll have some discussions with those people. We have to engage with them. We want to engage with them, so that we can manage expectations over the next period of time as we go through this process. I think there's only 3 on the actual lake, but this is what I like to say. This is moose country. This is very, very dense bush. It's very difficult to get into the project by road. Wintertime, we went and saw it in January.
Okay.
It was minus 45, but we found it. We got there. And today it's much easier to get into. So access is actually pretty good, but it's so far out of Thunder Bay that there aren't a lot of cottagers, and there's so many lakes up in that area that, I think people are spoiled for choice as well.
Understood. Thank you. Well, you mentioned spending 10 years in Africa. Welcome home. I know it's a different climate, but great to hear you're from here. Somebody in the chat actually said hello from Hampton, Brett's hometown. You're in good company.
Yeah.
Hey, Brett, you're in good company. I want to go a little bit in terms of the challenges that you expect and opportunities. Can we just do a long view, a big picture thinking here? What do you believe would be the challenges and the opportunities with the project?
Yeah, I think everyone in our space today is challenged by a couple of things. The first thing is certainly this global pandemic, and it has put a lot of restraints on us from the time we started working on the project in January up until now, because you just can't go to Home Depot and buy stuff. You just can't go to Canadian Tire and buy stuff. It is a process, and that process takes time, and it's painful. So there have been hurdles. There've been challenges, but they haven't prevented us from executing. So I think the pandemic and in the protocols that we have in place, distancing, masking, out in the bush, they have to be maintained, and it's not easy. And don't think it is. I don't think anybody realizes how difficult it really is working out in this kind of environment. So everyone is hampered by that. I think our ability. I don't think we have geological risk. We don't have financing risk. We don't have capital market type risk at this stage. We have execution risk. I need to do what I'm going to say I'm going to do. And that's why, the following I have in London, from living in London for 14 years, and the following I have of investors from the companies that I've run and made people money, they know that I can execute, and they know Pete can execute on the ground. But yes, I caveat it and say, yes, there's going to be challenges, there's going to be delays, but my job is about creating a story, and executing on that story, and also bringing people along with us. I don't like to get ahead. I don't like to get too far ahead. I don't like to leave people behind. I want people to come with us so they can understand the journey and understand the story, so that the market can stay with us as well. So there's certainly a couple of challenges that we all have, but I'm more excited about the opportunities.
I appreciate that. And on that note, kind of a short to medium term question comes up asking, what will the catalyst be over the next, say, 3, 6 to 9 months, Brett?
Yeah, so I see we're probably going to have a couple of news pieces come out. I'd like to show the market what we see on the VTEM survey. I think the Geophysical survey is going to tell us a lot. There's been piecework, geophysical work done on the property. This airborne survey, and we've done these a number of times. They are phenomenal. The technology is tremendous, giving you magnetic resonance down 1,000 meters. That creates some really, really cool maps. And for Pete, it creates some very, very cool drill targets that he obviously takes a deeper dive into these things than I do, because he is the geo. So I think that'll be a key piece of news that comes out. I think there will be other kind of activities we'll update the market on. We'll get drilling as soon as possible, and we'll get assays turned around, as soon as possible as well. I think we're going to see a steady stream of drill results come out. We're going to run one to 2 rigs. Maybe by August we'll ramp up to 2 or 3, and then by the fall I would expect we're going to be working towards 6 or 7. So that in the wintertime, when we're actually doing the drilling on Moss Lake, we will have maximum capacity. I have access to 14 rigs. I think we're only going to have crews for half of them until we get some crews trained. And when I talked about the balance between infilling Moss Lake and scout drilling and doing some of these targets along extension, kind of that balance is 60-40, but our program's not 60-40. I need to do a lot of the infilling in the wintertime on the actual lake. And it's a little swampy right now. We can't be doing it just because of the ground conditions. But we got a lot of targets to generate on extension. So we'll do 90%, out in the field, out towards Iris, down towards Hamlin, and then we'll do 90% in the wintertime on Moss Lake. So I think we're going to see just a steady stream of drill results to the point where the market is going to start saying, yes, this is real. Yes, this is more real. Yes, this is more real again. You're getting closer to that project definition. And that's our job from L to O, is getting to that, defining a project and showing that grade model that there's something here to mine to that has size and scale.
Fair enough. Thank you for that. And you've mentioned the conditions of the lake. It actually is a great segue to a very popular question right now in the column that says specifically, how does the lake affect permitting and construction exactly?
Yeah, so it is a long process. It'll be a couple of years of our baseline work. It'll be a couple of more years of environmental work beyond that. We are already engaging with the ministry and with fisheries. When you need to start, relocating river systems, ecosystems, etc., there's a lot of work that has to go on the ground. Rainy River has just gone through it. Cote Lake had to do a lot of this work as well. This is not uncommon. It has been done many times in Ontario and Quebec. Okay. So again, when I talk about following the footsteps of some of these, the profiles are eerily similar as to what they had to go through to get their big projects permitted and in construction and in production. And we have to go through the same thing. So it is a process. There's no doubt about it. And we're trying to do as much as the heavy lifting as possible as we go through our program over the next couple of years.
I appreciate that. Just curious, any estimate on ultimately the meters that need to be drilled at the project?
Yeah, I threw out a 100,000 meter number. We worked backwards from that, almost reverse engineering kind of what we needed to do. I suspect we're going to need 50 to 60,000 meters at Moss Lake in order to kind of give me the size and quality that I can really hang together a very high quality PEA on. Mm-hmm. And so after kind of a preliminary economic analysis is done, and the 40,000 meters on top of the 60 would be more inferred than anything else on the outer boundaries. Now I can demonstrate a big project with big potential and big, geological potential along strike, open at depth. That's what I'm trying to get to. So it'll probably take 100,000 meters after that to get this to a bankable state or a decision. Mm-hmm. And probably need to do some substantial infilling to probably 12.5 meters. So our role in this from L to O is committing a minimum of 100,000 meters, and if we have to go beyond that, then we'll do what we have to do.
Okay, good to know. And you've done this before. It's from the sounds of it. I appreciate that. Question here saying there's an historic copper mine run by Noranda and then Xstrata on the property. Can you tell us any copper opportunities that you think you might have?
Yeah, it's a great, that's a great question. One of the things that hasn't been done on this project is they haven't assayed for everything. And there haven't been a lot of copper assays, even down where we see an IOCG down in Hamlin. Even the drilling that was done down there assayed for gold. And I think we're going to do kind of extensive information gathering. So this core, we're actually relogging some of the core from East Cold Stream now to understand it. You can understand the strat, the lithology of it, and to verify that this is a VMS deposit. And putting all these layers of information together to understand it, so that when we drill it, we know how to drill it, we know what we're going to collect from the drill results, and quite frankly, we will be assaying for copper. And given the toe-to-toe size of our land package, 30 kilometers, it would not be uncommon to have multiple mining sites or multiple mines on a project of this nature. I just don't know if it's one or if it's multiple ones, and very early to tell. But again, our job is trying to delineate some of these questions and provide some answers.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Brett. You mentioned several times, and I get it, it shows the extent of experience about the type CAT strategy. I'm curious, for those that might be newer to investing, can you share from your perspective what a tight cap strategy really provides, maybe a top 3 advantage for the company's overall strategy?
Sure. In this game, and not just junior mining, but I've run mid tiers as well. In this game, volume is everything, and churning shares through your cap structure, getting a lot of trading going through the cap structure raises the bar. When you have a good story, when you have a good environment, it can also lower the bar very quickly in a very declining market. But you have to take a view of the gold price, and we have to take a view of the gold price. We don't do this agnostic to the gold price. I have a view it's going to trade between this range. This project is horribly economic at this trading range. And so I believe the trajectory is one way. If I can, convince people that this story is undervalued to our peers or undervalued in the marketplace, I need to create volume. The way we set out the cap structure was we had as few shares trading as possible. So yes, it does have a positive impact on the share price, because when you have a good story, a good gold environment, and you have a small free trading share base, then the gold price, your share price is going to go up. And as you drip feed shares in over time, and that's why I'm not going to say demanded, but we negotiated with Wesdome. You're a strategic shareholder to us. We want you here. We want you sticky. We don't want you coming in and out of the market. We want you to be there. And same as management. We are all under the same escrow agreement as Wesdome. And for the shares that we all wrote checks for, we can't touch them. And we get like 15% released in 6 months, another 10, another 50. It releases over a period of time. But I love the story to the finish line. So I don't. This is not Kool-Aid, and I'm not selling Kool-Aid. I'm not drinking my own Kool-Aid. I actually believe in all of this, and genuinely feel. I've seen so many of these stories before where it's been pomp and circumstance and a lot of arm waving. And look at us, we got 4 million ounces, and we're going to drill the mess out of it and get 10 million ounces. That's not us. We're going to drill this properly. We're going to drill it to a project. And yes, I'm going to increase the quality and the quantity, but I'm going to do it in such a way that I'm preparing it for the next steps. And the next steps are decisions by us or decisions by others to take this through, construction, financing, and ultimately production.
Great perspective. Thank you, Brett. We just have a moment or two left. I want to ask Williams sent a question through saying, why an RTO and why with Sierra Madre?
Yeah, so it's just two reasons. The cap structure of Sierra Madre was very favorable. It was easy to do because we have a historic resource, and because there was limited, usable technical knowledge because of the date of it. These things have a shelf life. National Instrument provides that these things need to be updated on a regular basis. So for us to be able to have done an IPO, just a general initial offering, we would have had to go full prospectus, and we would have had to spend at least a year putting all that together and drilling this resource in order to make it a current resource, entering as a tier 1. So that would have been a more difficult path for us. We felt that we were comfortable putting it into Sierra Madre because of the cap structure, and we were comfortable doing an RTO because of this. Again, speed to market is everything. The TSX and they did a brilliant job, and they did a brilliant job getting us through their pipeline because it involved a major or mid-tier in Wesdome. And because the appetite for this project was tremendous. I think they did a great job for us in a short period of time, from the time we put our filing statement in to the time we got feedback to the time we were able to trade record time in COVID climate. There's no two ways about it.
That's a great shout out. I appreciate that very much. Just a moment left here, Brett. Is there anything I'd like to leave an open door here for you? Anything we haven't touched on or additional content you want to share with the audience?
No, I think this whole medium of doing these electronic road shows is tremendous, and I'm used to the last 25 years, 30 years of my career doing road shows where you fly, you drive, you sit, you talk, you chat, and then you go to do the next one. Well, I think this is great, and we've had great attendance today, and I really appreciate people coming out to hear the story. It's much easier to get this across the airwaves. We've had a big marketing campaign on social media. And again, this is about awareness. And Mark, I got to thank you guys and Laurentian for helping us do this and putting our name out there as much as we have been doing. So thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate that energy, and a big shout out to the team behind the scenes. It's a remarkable process. There's a lot of moving parts, and we couldn't do this without the audience. And I think folks like you, Brett, that come in and share openly about what's happening behind the scenes at the company really helps drive this forward. So thank you for that. I'll thank you for your time, and we'll certainly be watching. I noticed you're about 40 minutes from end of trading day today, so we'll be curious to see how things went on the market for you. And congratulations, best of luck moving forward.